You know guys, this past week and a half has been a pretty incredible time to be a Star Wars fan. The first episodes of The Mandalorian have blown me away, Jedi Fallen Order has finally released and exceeded every single expectation I ever had for the game, and I've been spending a lot of time visiting an old friend, Star Wars Battlefront 2015, or the first of the rebooted Battlefront franchise. I posted a video earlier in the month revisiting the game after having played a handful of matches for the first time in like a couple of years, but as I've continued to play over the past week, finding a downright shocking amount of active players online, it got me thinking of all the things Battlefront 2015 did better than Battlefront 2. Now, I'm not going to try to rewrite history here. It is undeniable that Battlefront 2015 had some pretty glaring flaws, and in many ways Battlefront 2 has improved upon some of the primary complaints that many people had with the first game. The biggest of which is the inclusion of prequel content, more available heroes, and of course, the free DLC that is accessible to everyone within Battlefront 2. Battlefront 2 is, in my personal opinion, a great game, which is why I've been playing it for 2 years now. Still, while revisiting the first DICE Battlefront throughout the week, I was genuinely surprised to find out how many things that game did really well, and in certain cases included features that are completely missing from Battlefront 2, and some pretty huge ones at that. I'm not going to waste any of your time and just get into the first example of what I'm talking about, which is a really huge one, that being the blaster variety. Battlefront 2015 had over 20 unique and incredibly fun to use blasters available for the troopers, whereas Battlefront 2 has just 12, not including the default blasters. More important than the number of blasters is how each blaster in Battlefront 2015 was very distinctive, and many had extremely unique abilities that set them apart. You had the bow rifle, equipped with an electrified staff that allowed you to go around one-shot meleeing everyone. The DT-29, a pistol with extremely high damage, but required a manual reload. The A-180, a blaster that could be reconfigured from a pistol, to a rifle, to a sniper, to an ion weapon. The C-887 shotgun blaster, one of the most fun blasters in Battlefront history, and great for close-range engagements. And also, who could forget the K-16 Briar pistol, which allowed players to charge up a secondary blast to wipe out anyone unlucky enough to catch themselves in its radius. Additionally, modified versions of the hero blasters were available for troopers to use, like Han's DL-44, Lando's X-8 Night Sniper, Krennic's previously mentioned DT-29, and several others. I loved the blaster variety in Battlefront 2015. New weapons were added semi-regularly, which kept the gunplay fresh, whereas in Battlefront 2 we haven't had a single new weapon for troopers since the launch of the game, which is something I hope to see change in the near future. Another huge example, and something I had almost completely forgotten about, was the ability to host private matches in Battlefront 2015. Because Battlefront 2 doesn't have them at all, it's crazy to think that the game that came first has them, yet the sequel doesn't. Private matches should be a given in any online multiplayer game of the past decade, and Battlefront 2 does not. This is a very simple one, there's really nothing to debate here as far as which game has the edge. I can't jump online and play with friends in a controlled environment in Battlefront 2, yet 4 years ago in the first Battlefront, I was able to match up with friends on any map I wanted to and just do anything and test whatever I wanted. As far as I know, DICE has made no indication private matches are ever coming to Battlefront 2, which is really just a shame. I'd love to play private matches in Battlefront 2 with friends. Battlefront 2 just has so many great things about it, I've almost forgotten what is missing from the game. And surprisingly, we still have a few other pretty major missing features that Battlefront 2015 did have, we'll be covering in just a moment. However, before we move on, we do have a sponsor for today's video. Now, you guys probably know I try to be very selective with who and what I promote on this channel. I like to make sure it's a good fit and something I just feel comfortable sharing with my viewers, which is why today's sponsor couldn't be more well suited for you guys, as Epic Games were kind enough to reach out to me a couple of days ago to promote a little game you might have heard of called Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. By the time they had reached out to me, I had already completed the game on my own terms, and like I said near the beginning of the upload, I am genuinely in love with Fallen Order, so I was very happy to partner up with Epic just to let you guys all know about this. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is available on the Epic Games Store for $59.99, and unlike purchasing it anywhere else, the Epic Games version comes with the Fortnite Stormtrooper skin completely free, so if you're someone who has an interest in both Star Wars and Fortnite, it's pretty much a no-brainer. The Epic Games edition is the same price, but comes with more content. Also, if you use my link in the description below to pick up the game and use my creator code battlefrontknight during checkout, you'll really be helping to support the channel while also getting your hands on an incredible single-player Star Wars experience. I know a lot of you guys have been asking when my review is coming. I'm taking my time with it and it should drop this weekend. I really wanted to do the game justice and not just rush out a half-baked review. Anyway, thanks so much once again to Epic Games for sponsoring this upload. Be sure to use my link in the description below to check out Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order for yourself if you haven't already, and let's get back to the main video.
You will know the power of the dark side.
Hero intros. Why such a widely loved and simple feature in Battlefront 2015 was cut for seemingly no reason is beyond me. Choosing a hero and hearing their theme play as they let out an iconic line was the perfect way to spawn in as a hero. In Battlefront 2, you just kind of show up, which there's nothing wrong with, I guess, but there was something so exciting about spawning in as a hero in Battlefront 2015. Part of it was probably just the randomness of it. You had to get lucky and get a hero token, something I didn't like, whereas in Battlefront 2, if you are someone who plays often, it's relatively easy to get a hero almost every single match, and I know some players who have the frustration of never getting a hero. Neither systems are perfect, that is for sure. Still, there was something special about those hero intros. DICE has discussed bringing them back, and I think the vast majority of us would love to see that. Another aspect of Battlefront 2015 that stood out to me as much better than in Battlefront 2 while playing this week were the blaster bolts and explosions. In Battlefront 2015, the blaster bolts just sound and look so much better.
What'd you do?
In my opinion, in Battlefront 2, the blaster bolts are just way less vibrant and don't match the movies nearly as well as they did in Battlefront 2015. The lightsabers in Battlefront 2 had the same problem for a long time until DICE decided to rework their appearance after most of the community complained. The difference is even more drastic when it comes to the various explosives in the two Battlefronts. Just look at this beautiful cinematic showing off Greedo's thermal imploder. Battlefront 2 is just leagues behind in this department, where most of the explosions just look like standard Call of Duty frag grenades. And this is one of those things where I just really don't understand the change. The downgrade was pretty drastic. Speaking of downgrades, Battlefront 2015 also had a map selector for every game mode, something Battlefront 2 doesn't have whatsoever. If you wanted to play Hero Hunt on Tatooine, go right ahead because you had full control of which lobbies you were placed into. In Battlefront 2, this is a very common complaint associated with the game. You can choose your game mode, but have no control over the map other than queuing up over and over again and just still not getting the map you want, which can get very frustrating because there will be times where I'll go weeks without playing maps like Camino, Yavin 4, or Death Star 2, which are some of my all-time favorite maps. I know Battlefront 2 is said to be on a set rotation, but it certainly doesn't feel like it at times. I end up playing the same handful of maps most of the time for whatever reason. Maybe I'm just unlucky and the game is sticking me in a Jakku, Takadana, and Kashyyyk Infinite playlist. Not that I have anything against Kashyyyk, it would just be nice to have a bit more control, something that Battlefront 2 offered from the very beginning. Since we're talking about maps, I think it's also worth mentioning in some cases, the map design in Battlefront 2015 was just better. Battlefront 2 has a ton of incredible maps. Death Star 2, Naboo, Geonosis, Camino. I really love Yavin 4, although some people seem to hate that map for whatever reason, and there are many other great maps I didn't mention. However, none of the planets I just mentioned had counterparts in Battlefront 2015, and when you directly compare the map locations from Battlefront 2015 to those also included in Battlefront 2, I much preferred many of those maps, and I know this is more subjective. Hoth in the first DICE Battlefront was just incredible. The first match of Walker Assault on Hoth was a mind-blowing moment for me. Jakku is another map that was so much better in Battlefront 2015. Graveyard of Giants was always one of my all-time favorites, whereas Jakku in Battlefront 2 is one of my least favorite maps, and is one I generally avoid at all costs. Really, the difference between Battlefront 2015 and Battlefront 2 in terms of maps is while Battlefront 2 has a lot of really great ones, maybe more in total as Battlefront 2 has more planets in general, but at the same time it also has some pretty bad maps. Battlefront 2015 was just really consistent. There weren't any maps I can remember I didn't like. I think back to Walker Assault maps like Cloud City, Scariff, Sullust, Outpost Beta on Hoth, Junlin Wastes on Tatooine. All of those were just incredible. And tying back into my previous point, if I was in the mood for a specific map, I could just pick that location and be playing within minutes. Whereas in Battlefront 2, if I want to play Galactic Assault Camino, I have to do some sort of blood ritual honoring the Battlefront gods to even have a small chance. I think that's a big part of it. During the peak months of Battlefront 2015, I never had to play a map I wasn't in the mood for. I always had total control, so if there was a map I didn't want to play, the only one I really can think of that I wasn't a huge fan of was Twilight on Hoth. I didn't have to play it. I could just specifically choose any other map, which led to far fewer frustrations. I think if there is one thing that every person in the Battlefront community can agree on and we can all come together for, it's that we desperately need map selection. It's such a glaring omission from a game like this, or at the very least the ability to select which era to play in, prequel, original, or sequel. Even that would be a huge improvement. And really, that is all I could come up for with what Battlefront 2015 did better than Battlefront 2. What's odd about this video is while this was a pretty short list, almost everything we discussed today is pretty major, other than maybe the blaster bolts and explosions, but if I'm being honest, I feel like those are pretty huge downgrades. If Battlefront 2 were to just expand their blaster count, add a map select, and reintroduce hero intros, all things that are very possible, this list would be very short, but those three things in particular are major omissions from Battlefront 2. Ignoring clone legions, which are incredible, but there was no equivalent in the first DICE Battlefront, I think there's also an argument to be made that the customization was better in Battlefront 2015, because you had way more control over what species you wanted to be, whether you wanted to be male or female, and of course the Imperials had tons of options, whereas in Battlefront 2, there's no options at all, at least yet. If there's anything I missed that you think Battlefront 2015 did better than the sequel, feel free to comment down below and let me know, because I wouldn't be surprised if I missed something. The purpose of this video was to discuss what Battlefront 2015 did better than Battlefront 2, and believe me, I am fully aware that Battlefront 2 did tons of things better than the first game, but that's not what this video was, and I really just wanted to talk more about Battlefront 2015 because I have been loving the throwback, as November is a slow month for Battlefront 2. We aren't getting another update until early December, so I figured why not take a trip down Nostalgia Avenue or Memory Lane or whatever. Anyway guys, thank you all so much for watching. If you are new to the channel, feel free to subscribe, and if you enjoyed, consider leaving a like as it does really help out the channel. Thank you once again to Epic Games for sponsoring today's video, and with all of that being said, I will see you in the next one. Bye. I'm solo.